Hello friends, welcome. In this video, I will help you understand what is the use and difference between the damage control plan and damage control booklet. Although this is a very boring topic, but I'll try to give you all this information in a way that you'll be able to easily remember it so that you can explain the examiner. So let's get started. So guys, let me start with the source of information. There is a MSc Circular 1245 which gives the guidelines for damage control plan and information to the masters. And this circular provides minimum information that must be made available to the master regarding the damage stability plan and damage stability booklet. If I take you further down, you see this, the information regarding the damage control plan, and soon I'll be sharing most of these points with you in simple language. And then this is damage control booklet, and this has additional information what is required, and then it also gives you guidance about the visual guidance to the master, placement on board the ship, use of onboard computers, and shore-based emergency response system. So basically this circular is very important when you're answering any question regarding the damage stability plan or booklet to the examiner. Mentioning this particular circular would mean that you know where to extract the information. So let me start with the damage control plan now. And as the name suggests, it's a plan like general arrangement plan, fire control plan, safety plan, etc. Like any other plan, this plan has a requirement that the scale must be adequate to show clearly the plan. The plan must include inboard profile, plan view of each deck, and transverse section to extent necessary to show the following information. Now I want you to think for a moment. If a ship has sustained some damage, what do you think would be the information that the people would be interested in on board that ship? Clearly, if there is a damage on the hull, I want to know the watertight boundaries of the ship, that at what point the water will stop. Then I want to know about the watertight closing appliances like watertight doors, ramps, internal ramps, and then I want to know how to control them, where are the locations, whether they can be remotely or locally operated. Is there any position indicator for these doors? Are there any alarms? Is there a requirement that certain watertight doors must be closed during navigation and there are certain doors which can be opened during the normal navigation? To answer this specific question, yes, there is a SOLAS regulation as per Chapter 2, Part 1, Regulation 22.4 that all the watertight doors must be clearly marked and indicated in the plan. Then after checking the internal watertight closing appliances, next I want to know is there any external watertight closing appliances in cargo ship and what is the position of the indicators and alarms for that? Then after checking the internal and external watertight closing appliances, the officer probably wants to know the weathertight closing appliances in the local subdivision boundaries above the bulkhead deck and on the lowest exposed weather deck, together with the location of control and position indicators if applicable. So basically the location of all the weathertight doors and the controls and position indicators for the same. And finally the location of all doors in the shell of the ship, including position indicator, leakage detection and surveillance device. So guys, I will just repeat these 5 points so that it cements in your mind properly. There are 5 kinds of boundaries which I'm interested in case there's a damage on the ship. First is the inherently watertight boundaries. Then, is there any internal watertight doors? Then third is there any external watertight door? Then I want to know the weathertight boundaries on the ship. Then finally, the location of all the doors on the shell of the ship. And when I know that these doors are there on the shell of the ship, I want to know if there is a position indicator, the leakage detection device, or any other surveillance device because they are on the shell of the ship. So having this information in hand in the form of a plan is really important in case of damage. So just remember 5 points about this. Now let's talk about the last 2 points. The number 6 point is location and arrangement of cross flooding system, blowout plugs, or any other mechanical mean to correct list due to flooding, together with location of all valves and remote controls. So this is what a cross flooding system looks like. If there's a damage on one side, there's a cross duct and the water can be immediately transferred to the other side to protect the ship from excessive list which is happening really fast. In the cross flooding system, the ship takes a lot of extra water, but it tends to make the ship stable by controlling the list. Now, the point number 6 and 7 are basically talking about what to do. You have all this information about the bulkheads and doors. What is the action you're going to take? So, first action will be if there is a system like cross flooding or similar system like blowout plugs, which is there on board. What is the location, how to operate all those valves, etc., should be provided. And the last point, location of all the bilge and ballast pumps, including their controls, position, and associated valves. This is all about the plan. Plan shows all the different kinds of boundaries which are available on the ship and the main arrangements like pumps, cross flooding system, blowout plugs, etc., which are available on board, including their controls and associated valves. And this is it. We are done with the damage control plan. Now let's talk about what is there in the booklet. And as the name suggests, the damage control booklet is not like a sheet or open plan. It's a booklet which contains general instructions to control the effect of damage. And this information is provided in addition to the damage control plan, which is part of this booklet. So, as per the requirement of the damage control booklet, it must contain a damage control plan, and further, it must provide specific guidance to take action in the case of damage, such as sounding of alarm to alert the crew, closing of all watertight doors and compartments, sounding of tanks to check where the water is flooding and with what rate, and then to find out what are the ways to reduce the effect of flooding, such as using the pumps to pump out the water. In addition to this, the booklet should contain additional detail such as location of the flooding detection system, sounding devices, tank vents, and overflow, which do not extend above the weather deck, pump capacities, piping diagram, instructions for operating the cross flooding system, means of accessing and escape from watertight compartment below the bulkhead deck for use by damage control parties, and alert ship management and other organizations to stand by and to coordinate assistance. Basically, to understand this, the damage control plan gives a lot of information. The booklet, in addition to those, gives extra information like how to control and operate the system, which are designed to cope up with the damage that the ship has sustained. Further, the booklet also gives information about any obstruction inside any tank which may retard the flow of entering seawater, which may cause a temporary condition of unsymmetrical flooding. To practically understand this point, we must remember that when we start loading a ship, the chief officer makes calculation for each stage of loading. This is to make sure that not only the ship is stable and safe when it's loaded, it must also be safe while it's being loaded. Similarly, after a ship has been damaged, it is not only the final stage of flooding that matters. The complete process from the time it has got damaged and the water has started flowing to the point when the water has completely filled up and an equilibrium is achieved is equally important for the safety of the ship. Thus, the booklet advises action and possibility of any scenario that may take place. And finally, the last part of booklet provides damage stability calculation that demonstrates with the applicable damage stability regulation. These are the calculations made during the design stage of the ship and verified after construction. For example, oil tankers need to comply with the damage stability requirement as per MARPOL Annex 1 Regulation 28. Damage stability requirement for oil tanker are based on the damage assumption, meaning that extent of damage is assumed at a location mentioned in MARPOL Annex 1 Regulation 28. Then various damage cases are drawn based on these damage assumptions. As you can see in this diagram, there are some damage cases for a particular ship. These damages are then assumed for all loaded conditions mentioned in the ship's trim and stability booklet. Now, as a sailor, we know that no matter how many different kind of damages can take place, your initial loading condition or the condition at the time of damage will never be the same. Thus, the information provided in the booklet regarding the damage cases is just a guidance which gives you a fair amount of idea how the ship may react, but it is not an accurate information for all the conditions. Thus, it is the requirement of the damage stability booklet that ship's officers are aware that the results are included only to assist them in estimating the ship's relative survivability. Also, the guidance must provide the criteria on which this calculation is based, like the location of damage permeability assumed for making such analysis, because in actual scenario, this particular calculation may have no correlation with the reality. I hope this clarifies the difference between the plan and booklet. Plan is basically a diagrammatic representation of what is available on board. And booklet, in addition to the plan, contains specific guidelines for the master, like what actions he must take in case of damage, what are the various resources that he can use on board the ship to control this, what are the factors that will affect his decisions, and finally, some damage stability calculation which will give him the approximate guidance in such a case. In addition to these, the circular contains the information that where these informations must be provided. On both cargo and passenger ships, it must be provided on the bridge, as well as one key location on board the ship. Further, the circular talks about the use of onboard computers to calculate the damage stability or the use of emergency response services, which is a great help in addition to the help provided by the damage stability booklet. Because the onboard computer softwares or the emergency response services would make calculation based on the actual loading condition of the ship, and they will also provide the exact survivability of the ship. I hope now the difference between the plan and booklet is clear for you. I also hope that you would be able to answer this question in the oral exam very easily, and it was a useful video for you. If you have any feedback, suggestion, or comment, then please do write down below. All the best for your exams, and as always, thank you for watching.